What happens when an angel abandons the place God has given him? What unfolds when a heavenly being entrusted with watchfulness turns his gaze toward the forbidden beauty of earth? The name that rises in whispers is Samyaza, remembered as the chief of the Watchers, the one who dared to lead heaven's servants into rebellion. His story is woven with mystery solemnity and a warning as ancient as the dawn of creation. Close your eyes and imagine the night skies vast and endless, filled with stars that glitter like embers on a black sea. Below, humankind is still young. Families gather around fires, women sing to their children, and men labor in the soil. It is a world both fragile and beautiful. Above them, appointed by God, the Watchers stand in vigil. Their charge is simple, yet sacred: to observe, to guide, to ensure that mankind thrives within the order God has set. But even guardians are not immune to temptation. And even among the host of heaven hearts can falter. Samyaza, tall among the angels, is their leader.
Let us rise above. Let us ascend beyond the realms of mortality and embrace the divine.
Yet within him stirs a longing, a hunger not born of heaven. He looks upon the daughters of men, sees their beauty, and feels a desire that should never take root in angelic hearts. What begins as admiration grows into temptation, and temptation blossoms into rebellion. One by one, the Watchers confide in each other, their voices hushed yet urgent. They too have felt the same pull, the same yearning. But fear restrains them, for they know the consequence of stepping outside God's will. It is Samyaza who speaks aloud the thought they all dare not. We cannot resist this desire forever. But if one acts alone, he will bear the judgment alone. Let us bind ourselves together so that we all may share the burden. His words are heavy, but they pierce their hesitation. Upon the slopes of Mount Hermon, beneath a sky burning with starlight, they gather. There Samyaza leads them in an oath, a covenant of rebellion. They swear with raised hands that they will descend together, that no one will shrink back from the deed, and that they will stand united in their choice. The mountain itself seems to tremble as their vow seals their fate. The stars above, once symbols of order, bear witness to this act of defiance. Heaven has not yet spoken, but already a crack has opened in creation's harmony. And so the descent begins. From the heights of the heavens, they fall not cast down by God, but drawn by their own desire. The people of earth, unaware of the storm about to break, marvel at the brilliance of these beings clothed in celestial light. To mortal eyes, they are gods. To the daughters of men, they are princes radiant with power. And Samyaza, who once stood as guardian, now becomes leader of a rebellion clothed in beauty, but seated in sin. This is the beginning. The promise of God's order remains unshaken, but his creation is about to be tested. The Watchers, entrusted with care, have bound themselves in disobedience. From their oath will come consequences too great to imagine. The story will unfold in unions never meant to exist in children, whose size and might will terrify the world, and in knowledge that corrupts more than it blesses. Yet within this fall lies a lesson for humanity. If even the Watchers, radiant and wise, can stumble when desire overrules obedience, how much more must mankind guard its heart? For the path from longing to rebellion is always short, and the cost of stepping outside God's will is always greater than the temptation that led there. The night deepens. The oath is sworn. The descent begins. And Samyaza, chief of the Watchers, takes the first step into the rebellion that will scar the earth and summon judgment from the throne of heaven. The earth awakens to a strange new dawn. The Watchers, who once stood as radiant guardians, now walk among the daughters of men as husbands, lovers, and teachers of forbidden arts. Their leader Samyaza keeps his oath binding them in their rebellion. Humanity gazes in wonder, never knowing the price that will soon be demanded. At first, the unions between angels and mortals seem glorious. The daughters of men rejoice, for they bear children of unmatched strength. These offspring are unlike anything the world has seen, taller, stronger, fierce in spirit. They are called Nephilim giants, born of heaven's brilliance and earth's flesh. Villages revere them, tribes bow before them, and kings tremble at their shadow. Mothers whisper that their sons are touched by divinity, and fathers boast of their lineage with pride. Yet pride soon turns to dread. The Nephilim grow restless. Their appetites are insatiable, their hunger beyond what fields and herds can provide. They devour livestock in a single feast, and when food runs dry, they turn to men themselves. Blood spills upon the soil, rivers run red, and the cries of the afflicted rise higher with each passing day. Humanity, once in awe, now cowers in terror, hiding from the very beings they once welcomed. The Watchers, too, reveal knowledge that was never meant for mortal hands. Azazel teaches men to forge swords and shields to fashion weapons of war. Women learn enchantments, ornaments, and cosmetics, adorning themselves with vanity while their hearts grow restless. Others reveal secrets of the heavens, of constellations, and sorcery of roots and potions that stir both desire and death. What was meant for stewardship becomes corruption. Innocence withers beneath the weight of forbidden wisdom. And Samyaza watches. The leader of the rebellion, he sees the fruit of his oath. His heart, once stirred by longing, now bears the heavy guilt of consequence. He knows the judgment of heaven must come, yet he does not turn back. The vow he bound upon Mount Hermon holds him fast. If he falters, he betrays the others. If he repents, he stands alone. So he leads them still, even as ruin spreads across the world. The Nephilim grow bold, declaring themselves kings and gods. They carve their names into stone, build monuments to their might, and enslave those who resist. The earth groans beneath their violence. Tribes vanish, fields burn, and the balance of creation trembles. What began as the promise of strength has become a plague of terror. The Watchers, blind in their rebellion, have loosed chaos that humanity cannot restrain. High above the heavens do not remain silent. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel gaze down upon the ruin with sorrow. Their voices rise before the throne of God. See what has become of the earth. The Watchers have defiled their charge. The Nephilim devour flesh and blood. Creation is broken, and mankind perishes beneath their weight, and God answers. His decree is clear. Bind the leaders of rebellion. Cast them into the depths. Cleanse the earth with waters that will wash away corruption. Preserve only the righteous, for my promise is to life, not to destruction. Even as this judgment is spoken, whispers of hope begin to stir. Amid the corruption, Noah walks with God. His obedience shines like a lamp in a darkened world. While the Nephilim boast of strength, Noah builds quietly, plank by plank, an ark that will rise above the waters. His faith stands in stark contrast to the arrogance of the giants, yet the Watchers do not relent. They cling to their unions, fearing the wrath to come, but bound by their choices. Samyaza himself is torn. He knows the cost, yet his oath and his desire keep him chained. His name, once honored among angels, now becomes a byword for rebellion. The moment of reckoning draws near, and his legacy is sealed. From their unions come terror. From their teaching comes corruption. From their arrogance comes violence. And from their rebellion will come judgment, swift, severe, and eternal. The sky grows heavy. Clouds thicken and darken as though creation itself mourns. The voices of men cry out beneath the tyranny of the Nephilim, and the groaning of the earth rises to heaven like smoke from a burning altar. The watchers know judgment is near, yet they cling to their rebellion. Samyaza, their leader, feels the weight of his oath pressing upon him, heavier than chains, heavier than mountains. Once radiant, his name now trembles beneath the shadow of God's decree. The command from heaven resounds. Archangels descend, their presence brighter than fire, their steps shaking the earth. They come not with mercy, but with justice. To Michael is given the task of binding Samyaza, the ringleader of rebellion. Chains not forged by human hands encircle him, fetters unbreakable by strength or by cunning. He struggles, but the oath he swore and the guilt he carries strip him of power. His cries echo in the mountains, but heaven does not answer. One by one, the watchers are seized. Cast into pits of darkness, they are bound in silence, imprisoned until the day of final judgment. Their light fades, their glory stripped, and their rebellion turned to ash. What they sought in defiance has become their prison. Samyaza, who once united them with his vow, now shares their chains. His leadership is remembered not for honor, but for betrayal of heaven's trust, yet still the Nephilim remain. They stride across the land, their feet trampling harvests, their hands stained with blood. Their laughter mocks the cries of the weak, and their might seems unbreakable. But the decree of God is sure, and the judgment of the flood draws near. Noah builds plank by plank, while the world mocks him. The Nephilim sneer at his warnings, their voices booming across valleys. No flood can drown us. No waters can carry away giants. Yet they do not see the storm gathering, nor hear the deep groaning of the earth, preparing to burst open. When the first rains fall, they dismiss them as nothing. But when the skies rip apart and torrents crash upon the land, terror grips even their mighty hearts. The waters rise. Villages vanish beneath waves. Mountains are swallowed, and every creature gasps for breath. The Nephilim, so tall, climb higher, their voices turning from arrogance to fear. They roar against the storm, strike at waves with their fists, and cry out for deliverance. But the waters do not relent. Their sighs cannot save them. Their strength cannot resist, and their legacy cannot endure. The flood consumes them all. Inside the ark, Noah and his family rest in the promise of God. The storm rages outside, but within faith preserves them. The cries of giants fade, the thunder rolls, and silence follows. When at last the waters recede, the earth is cleansed. The Nephilim are no more, their bodies gone, their spirits left to wander as restless shadows, unclean, seeking rest, but finding none. Samyaza remains bound, imprisoned with the watchers who followed him. His name becomes a warning carved into eternity. The leader who once inspired loyalty now sits in chains, awaiting the final judgment when all rebellion will be silenced forever. His rebellion birthed giants, but God's judgment erased them. His oath united angels, but it chained them in darkness. His choice changed the world, but it could not overthrow heaven. The story does not end in despair alone, for from the ruin, redemption is seen. God preserves life through Noah, showing that even when corruption seems total, His promise endures. The flood is both destruction and deliverance, wrath and mercy. It reveals that no darkness, no giant, no rebellion is greater than His will to redeem. Prophecy whispers that as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be again. The spirit of rebellion rises in every age, taking new forms, building new empires, and exalting human pride as though it were divine. Yet just as Samyaza fell, so too shall every leader of rebellion fall. Just as the Nephilim drowned, so too shall every force that exalts itself against God be brought low. The story of Samyaza becomes a mirror, showing humanity what happens when desire outweighs obedience, and what hope remains when faith endures the storm. The chains remain, the oath echoes still, and the lesson endures. Heaven's order cannot be broken without consequence, but God's promise cannot be silenced by rebellion. The waters recede, and the ark rests upon the mountains. The cries of the Nephilim are silenced, their footsteps erased from the earth, their monuments broken by the flood. In the stillness, a new world begins. Yet the memory of what is past lingers like a shadow on the horizon. The tale of Samyaza and his rebellion does not vanish with the waters. It remains etched in scripture, carried in whispers, and remembered in fear and awe. For generations, humanity speaks of the Watchers. Around fires at night, elders tell of the oath sworn on Mount Hermon, of angels who chose desire over obedience, of giants whose hunger devoured the world. These stories, half remembered and half feared, serve as warnings. They remind each listener that power without restraint leads only to ruin, and that no act of rebellion escapes the gaze of God. Samyaza's name becomes a lesson. He was once a leader, a guardian, a figure of respect. Yet in one choice, one oath, he turned a host of angels toward corruption. His strength could not protect him from judgment, and his wisdom could not shield him from consequence. Now bound in eternal chains, he serves as a testament to the truth that even the mightiest fall when they stray from God's will. The Nephilim, too, become more than flesh and bone. Their memory echoes in legends of giants, titans, and heroes across cultures. Their spirits, restless and unclean, are said to wander as demons, reminders that rebellion leaves ripples even after bodies perish. They haunt humanity's imagination, not as beings of glory, but as warnings of what happens when boundaries are broken and desires run unchecked. And yet in the midst of this dark tale, there is light. For God's response is never only judgment. In preserving Noah and sparing creation, He shows that redemption is always possible. No matter how deep the corruption, He preserves a remnant. No matter how heavy the darkness, He raises a light. The flood was fierce, but from its waters came a fresh beginning, a chance for humanity to walk again in faith. For the listener today, the story resonates. We do not face Nephilim in flesh, but we face the spirit of rebellion in other forms: greed, pride, arrogance, the pursuit of power at any cost. The shadow of Samyaza lives on in every heart, tempted to step outside God's will. His fate warns us that rebellion may promise greatness, but always delivers chains, and yet hope whispers too. For the same God who cleansed the earth with waters preserves life with mercy. The same God who judged Samyaza remembered Noah. The same God who silenced giants will one day silence every shadow. His promise remains steadfast and eternal, that those who walk with Him will endure even when the storms rage. So let the story soften in your heart. Let the thunder fade, the waters still, the chains grow quiet. In the hush that follows, hear the lesson rebellion may roar. Giants may rise, but God's truth endures forever. End of script. Amen. The question lingers, like a shadow over ancient texts. What happened when angels looked down upon the daughters of men and desired them? Was this merely myth, or a forbidden union that shook the order of heaven and earth? The book of Genesis gives only a few haunting lines, yet within those lines lies the seed of one of the greatest mysteries ever told. It speaks of sons of God who descended to the earth and took wives from among humanity, and of their children, giants mighty and terrifying, whose presence left scars upon creation itself. These children, later called the Nephilim, were not born of the will of God, but from the desire of beings who abandoned their place in the heavens. Picture it now. The stars hang in the dark firmament, eternal and silent, while below the earth thrives with early humanity. Fires burn in primitive camps. Laughter rises in the night, and daughters of men walk with grace beneath the moon. High above the watchers, angels sent to oversee mankind gaze downward. Their purpose is divine guardianship, yet in their hearts, a storm brews. They are moved not by obedience to God, but by yearning for beauty, by hunger for flesh that was never meant for them. What begins as longing becomes temptation, and temptation soon leads to rebellion. The watchers speak among themselves in secret councils, whispering of the forbidden. Their leader, Samyaza, fears the wrath of heaven, yet he knows the desire in each of their hearts is too strong to be denied. If only one acts, he will be punished alone, he warns. But if we bind ourselves by oath, we will all share the burden. So together, they swear an eternal pact upon Mount Hermon, vowing to descend as one and take wives among the daughters of men. In that vow lies the first fracture, a crack in the harmony of heaven's will. And so it begins. These radiant beings, clothed in light and power, cast aside their stations and fall to earth. Humanity beholds them with awe, mistaking their brilliance for divinity, never knowing that what they see is rebellion disguised in splendor. The daughters of men are given in marriage, and the union between spirit and flesh becomes reality. From these unions come children, unlike any before, towering, powerful, and insatiable. They are not wholly of heaven, nor wholly of earth, but something in between, the Nephilim. At first, their strength is seen as a blessing. Villages protected enemies, vanquished fields, defended. Yet power unchecked soon turns to corruption. The Nephilim hunger, endlessly consuming the labor of mankind, and when food is not enough, they turn to blood. They crush weaker men, enslave the helpless, and spread violence like a plague. What was once awe becomes terror. Mothers weep for their sons. Fathers bow in despair, for who can stand against a child of the heavens born with the fury of giants? The earth itself groans beneath their weight. The cries of the oppressed rise to heaven, and creation is thrown into imbalance. Animals are corrupted, knowledge forbidden is taught sorcery, weaponry, enchantments, and secrets of the stars. The Watchers, once guardians, now become teachers of destruction, spreading wisdom that was never meant for mortal hands. Humanity, once innocent and simple, learns the arts of war and vanity, fashioning swords, mirrors, and charms. In a single generation, the beauty of creation is overshadowed by the curse of rebellion. But heaven does not turn a blind eye. God hears the cries of the afflicted. His promise from the beginning was clear. Creation is good humanity is made in his image, and no corruption shall stand forever. The Watchers have broken covenant. The Nephilim have tainted the earth, and now judgment must come. Prophets speak of a coming reckoning of waters that will rise to wash away the corruption of giants and cleanse the earth of their stain. The promise of justice shines like a distant light, even as darkness spreads across the land. Still within the storm of rebellion, a lesson begins to form. The fall of the Watchers is not only a story of desire, but of the cost of disobedience. They sought to mix what was never meant to mingle, and in their pursuit of pleasure, they birthed sorrow. Humanity, too, sees in their reflection a warning that power without restraint destroys that desire, without obedience corrupts, and that no secret stolen from heaven can remain hidden forever. And yet a question burns for the listener. Why would angels risk everything for the love of mortal women? Was this lust alone, or some greater defiance, a rejection of the order God had set between heaven and earth? The answer remains, veiled, wrapped in mystery. Some say the Watchers sought to create a new race, one that might rival the image of God himself. Others believe they were driven by envy, jealous of mankind's place in God's heart. Whatever the truth, their choice set in motion a divine drama whose echoes would thunder through generations. The Watchers descend the Nephilim rise, and the stage is set for judgment. What began as longing beneath the stars has now become a shadow upon the world. The heavens prepared to act for corruption cannot stand forever. And within this moment lies the beginning of one of the most haunting and forbidden tales of Scripture, the secrets of the Nephilim children of the fallen. The giants walk upon the earth. Their shadows stretch long across valleys and plains. Their voices thunder like storms, and their appetites devour the labor of nations. These are the Nephilim, the offspring of heaven and humanity, born of rebellion and desire. At first, their strength is admired, for who can resist marveling at men who tower above all others, who wield power beyond mortal reckoning? But soon, admiration turns to dread. Their hunger knows no limit. Fields are stripped bare, herds are slaughtered in a night, and when no food remains, they turn against man himself. Blood stains the soil, and the cries of the innocent reach heaven's throne. They are not merely tall, they are mighty in cruelty. Whole cities bow beneath their fists, entire tribes vanish into slavery or slaughter. Some Nephilim claim dominion as kings, carving their names into stone as if they were gods. Others wander as warlords, leaving only smoke and bones in their wake. Their mothers, once praised for bearing children of angels, now hide their faces in shame, for the very sons they bore have become monsters. The Watchers, their fathers, stand at the edge of this ruin, teaching yet more forbidden arts. Azazel reveals the forging of swords and shields, and soon mankind's hands are stained with iron and fire. Others teach enchantments, potions, and charms, opening doors to spirits and shadows never meant to be invoked. The daughters of men adorn themselves with jewels and paints, learning vanity from their fallen husbands. What was once the simplicity of creation is now drowned in artifice and war. Humanity is armed with knowledge, but that knowledge is a curse, not a gift. The earth groans beneath this weight. Rivers run red, forests are stripped bare. Beasts are twisted in strange forms. Even the air seems heavy with corruption. The angels in heaven behold the ruin with sorrow. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel look down upon the suffering world and plead before the throne of God. See what has been done, they cry. The children of men perish. The watchers have defiled their calling. The Nephilim devour the earth. Must not justice be done? And God answers. His voice shakes the heavens and declares judgment. Bind the watchers who have betrayed their station. Cast them into darkness until the day of judgment. Cleanse the earth of their children, for they are not of my creation, nor shall they remain. At his command, the archangels descend like fire upon the mountain peaks. Chains not forged by human hands bind the fallen, dragging them into pits of shadow, where they remain until the final reckoning. Their cries echo in the deep, but their rebellion is silenced. Yet the Nephilim remain, their armies vast, their cruelty unmatched. For them, another judgment is prepared, the waters of the great flood. Noah, a man righteous in his generation, is chosen as the vessel of salvation. While the world mocks him for building an ark on dry land, heaven weeps and waits for the day is coming, when rain will fall without ceasing, and the waters will rise to wash away all corruption. Still, even as the flood draws near, the Nephilim continue their reign of terror. They boast of their strength unshaken by prophecy. They strike at villages, drink deep of blood, and laugh at the weakness of mortals. Yet a shadow grows around them. The skies darken with a heaviness they cannot explain. Thunder growls like a warning, and the earth trembles beneath their feet. For all their power, they cannot see that their end is already written, and in this, a deeper meaning lies. For the story of the Nephilim is not only about giants and violence, but about the danger of unrestrained power. They were born of desire that defied God's command, and from that desire came destruction. Their very existence teaches that when boundaries set by heaven are broken, the consequence is always chaos. Humanity, too, must learn this lesson. What is taken without God's blessing, what is gained outside His will never bring peace. It brings only ruin. Yet even here, amid the terror, a glimmer of promise remains. For while the Nephilim destroy, Noah builds. While the watchers fall, heaven prepares deliverance. The judgment of God is not merely destruction, it is also salvation for the righteous. And so, the great paradox of the Nephilim's tale emerges. Their rise brings terror, but their fall brings hope. Out of the flood will come a new world, cleansed of their shadow, where humanity may begin again. Prophecy whispers, though, that the Nephilim are never fully gone. Echoes of them linger in the giants that Israel faces in Canaan, the Anakim, the Rephaim, the sons of Anak, whose stature terrifies spies. Legends across cultures speak of heroes, demigods, and titans, all shadows of that forbidden union. Some say their spirits cut off from bodies by the flood wander as unclean demons seeking rest but finding none. They are reminders of what happens when heaven's order is broken, and they remain as warnings carved into the memory of mankind. The Nephilim's fall teaches that no empire, no giant, no rebellion can stand against the will of God. Yet it also teaches that humanity, fragile though it is beloved by the Creator, who will cleanse and redeem rather than abandon. For though giants stride the earth, it is the humble man with faith who finds favor and builds the ark. And though the flood drowns the mighty, it is the small family of Noah who carries the seed of life into a new beginning. Thus, the story moves toward its climax. The watchers are bound, the Nephilim rage, the ark rises on dry land, and the heavens prepare to open their gates of water. Judgment is near, and the secrets of the Nephilim move closer to their tragic end. The skies blacken, clouds gather, with a weight never before seen, and thunder rolls as if the heavens themselves are groaning under the burden of judgment. The Nephilim, mighty and unafraid, look upward and laugh at the trembling of the earth. Yet their laughter is hollow, for deep within their bones they sense the truth. The hand of God has been stirred, and his patience has ended. Noah works steadily on the ark, plank by plank, as the warnings of heaven echo in his heart. For 120 years, he has labored in obedience while the world mocked him. Children have thrown stones, elders have jeered, kings have scoffed, and the Nephilim, towering in their pride, have declared him a fool. Yet Noah listens not to the voices of men, but to the command of God. His ark is not only a vessel of wood, it is a prophecy carved in timber, a testimony that judgment is certain and salvation is prepared. Then the rain begins. At first, it is gentle a mist that could be mistaken for morning dew. But soon, the heavens break open, and torrents pour as though every river of the sky has been unleashed. The ground shakes, fountains burst from the deep, and waters rise with unstoppable fury. Men cry out, women weep, and even the Nephilim, so mighty in stature, feel fear claw at their hearts. Their towering bodies stumble as the earth itself crumbles beneath the flood. Some Nephilim fight against the waters, striking at waves as if they were enemies of flesh. Others climb mountains carrying men and women on their shoulders, desperate to save at least a fragment of their dominion. Yet the waters rise higher still. Their voices, once thundering in arrogance, now howl in despair. For all their strength, they cannot resist the decree of the Almighty. The flood swallows cities, kingdoms, beasts, and giants alike, leaving only silence broken by the roar of rain. In the ark floats the remnant Noah, his family, and the animals preserved by God's hand. Inside, the light of hope flickers. Outside, the legacy of rebellion drowns. The watchers bound in chains beneath the earth hear the cries of their children fade. Their punishment is complete. Not only are they cast into darkness, but the fruit of their rebellion is erased from the world. Yet judgment is never without meaning. The destruction of the Nephilim is not only wrath, but mercy. For if their reign had continued, no flesh would have been spared. Their violence, their hunger, their corruption would have consumed every corner of creation. The flood, though terrible, becomes a cleansing, a reset of the world, a renewal of God's promise to preserve what is good and holy. But the shadow of the Nephilim is not erased entirely. In the generations after the flood, whispers remain. Israel's spies tremble before the Anakim, saying, "We were as grasshoppers in their sight." David later faces Goliath, a giant whose stature recalls the old days. Prophets speak of unclean spirits roaming the earth, restless souls of the Nephilim who perished in the flood. They wander without bodies, seeking to afflict mankind, becoming demons that tempt, deceive, and oppress. The war between heaven and the children of rebellion continues not in flesh, but in spirit. And what of prophecy? Some traditions warn that the end of days will mirror the days of Noah. Just as the Nephilim once filled the earth with violence, so too will wickedness spread before the final judgment. Giants may not walk openly in flesh, but their legacy endures in systems of pride, violence, and corruption that tower above humanity like unseen colossi. The spirit of rebellion is ancient, and its roots run deep. Yet the promise of God is deeper still. For just as Noah found grace, so too shall a remnant be preserved when the final storm comes. The story of the Nephilim, then, is not simply about monsters of the past, It is a mirror held up to mankind. The Watchers chose desire over obedience, and their children became destruction. Humanity today faces the same choice to live within the order of God's will or to grasp after forbidden power. The lesson is clear. Giants fall. Rebellion drowns. But faith humbles steadfast, and obedient endures forever. Thus, the tale of the Nephilim closes in shadow and light. From forbidden unions came terror. From terror came judgment. And from judgment came redemption. The secrets of the Nephilim are not lost. They echo as warnings etched in prophecy, whispering across time that no power can withstand the hand of God, and no rebellion can eclipse his promise. And so the waters recede, the ark rests upon Ararat, and a new dawn breaks over a world washed clean. Yet the story of the Nephilim does not vanish with the flood. It lingers, like the distant rumble of thunder after a storm has passed. The earth is new, but the memory of giants remains carved into the hearts of men as both a terror and a warning. The voices of the Watchers are silenced bound until the day of final judgment. But their tale is whispered still in the night winds and in the ancient songs of tribes who remember a time when giants walked the earth. Around the fires of generations, elders speak of towering shadows and battles too great for ordinary men. They speak of the arrogance of heaven's sons who abandoned their place, and of the mercy of God who preserved life through one obedient servant. These memories, half faded, remind humanity that history itself is a teacher, and its lessons are etched not only in Scripture, but in the very soil we walk upon. The Nephilim become more than a story. They become a symbol. They stand for all things that rise in defiance of God. Empires swollen with pride, men who thirst for power, nations that consume the weak. They remind us that what grows too tall, without roots in righteousness, will always fall. Just as the giants were swept away by waters, so too shall every arrogance be humbled, every false kingdom be dissolved, every proud heart be bowed before the throne of the Almighty. Yet the story also carries a softer lesson, one hidden beneath its shadows. For in the midst of ruin, God remembered Noah, and through him, he remembered all creation. Even when judgment falls, mercy flows within it. Even when giants perish, the small and faithful are preserved. This is the heartbeat of the tale, not only that rebellion is punished, but that obedience is rewarded, and that love endures beyond wrath. Imagine the ark, rocking gently upon the waters, while chaos reigns below. Inside, the laughter of children, the lowing of animals, the prayers of a man who dared to believe. Outside, silence and ruin. That image is a promise, though the world may rage, though giants may rise, though corruption may choke the earth, God's hand can still lift up the humble and carry them through the flood. And so the Nephilim, children of the fallen, leave behind more than bones and broken legends. They leave behind a question whispered to every generation. Will you walk in rebellion or in obedience? Will you reach for forbidden power, or will you wait upon the will of God? Their fate is written as a warning, but also as an invitation to choose differently, to walk in faith, to live in a way that honors the Creator rather than defies Him. In the end, the giants fall, but the lesson remains standing. Humanity does not need to fear the shadows of ancient titans, for greater than any giant is the God who rules heaven and earth. And greater than any rebellion is the love that remembers, redeems, and restores. The Nephilim are secrets no longer. Their story is unveiled as both history and prophecy, as a dark chapter and a shining reminder let the listener take it to heart. For though the world may once again grow violent, though corruption may spread, though giants may rise in other forms, the promise endures that those who walk with God will be preserved, and that no shadow, however tall, can stand against the light of His eternal truth. And so, we close this story in reverence. The voices fade, the storm quiets, and the waters lie still. What remains is the whisper of eternity, that heaven rules, that giants fall, and that faith endures forever.